Hi, everybody, and welcome to 21st Century Underground. We are three creative types discussing creative matters. We are basically, we began this podcast as a means by which to discuss art and artistic standards and what makes something a good piece of art, whether it's music, film, literature, painting, whatever. And we just want to sort of get into why they work and why they don't work. Not to get too academic or too technical about it, but what is it that makes something resonate with people? So we're going to introduce ourselves. I'm Salvatore. I am the writer of the group. And then sitting next to me,
I'm Brandon Salas. I am filmmaking.
Mike Variel. I produce music.
Yeah, straightforward.
That is us. Yeah, we are all underground individuals working in an independent capacity, trying to kind of make it on our own outside of the system. And I feel like that's kind of an important thing to get into these days because the internet has made it so possible for your work to get exposure, but there's so many sort of giant, colossal groups of people producing things that seem almost untouchable. So what is it like working at a smaller level with low budgets? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I do my own. I own my own business. I try to provide filmmaking as commercial. I try to do commercials and social media marketing and stuff like that, and make a business out of that. But a very free chance I get, I'm focusing on trying to take those same resources that I apply for that business to create films or music videos or some type of short or something creative. So I've been doing that with this guy for since I was age 9.
That's true.
Brought a camera over.
Brought a video camera over. Changed his life forever.
The mic came smashing into our lives about a year and a half, 2 years ago?
2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
We worked on he actually produced the soundtrack for a short film that I was working on, and that was bomb. So
we just shot another one recently where Mike did all of the audio for. In fact, you were just our audio guy in general for that last one.
The audio man.
Yeah, which is a really nice thing to have. Yeah, because on your first short film, it was 3 or 4 different people all, you know what I mean, trying to keep it straight. So yeah.
But I guess it's not your main swing. I guess what's your main swing into music and?
Well, I'm currently in a hiatus, but I mainly make beats, and I was working with a lot of artists, recording their music and working with the artists, kind of come up with their style and their music, and it just kind of got too mundane for me, so I took a break, but mainly I did that. Now I'm just kind of doing mainly the film stuff with you guys and this, and kind of keeping it simple, straightforward, recording. But yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's pretty much us, and we're gonna try to keep this pretty consistent, and you'll be able to find us on Instagram at 21st Century Underground. It's not taken yet.
Yeah, no, which we should really get after that. Yeah, before this is posted, we'll have made sure to have gotten down to that. So we'll have that before this goes up.
But I already checked all the social medias and websites, so there'll be those things. And
21CU, it's a good acronym too, so we're gonna take that as well.
It sounds like our washing machine is trying to make a run for it.
Yeah, we're in a garage next to a laundry room right now. That's how fucking underground we are. So just look at this lighting. So give you an idea of how fucking for real we are.
It sounds like a train.
Does it? That's good. That's good.
That's
we
cool.
should have said it was a train.
Yeah, this is the underground. Well, okay, hold on.
Yeah, we're in a.
There it goes.
We're so underground.
We're in the
Phoenix's, tube. Yeah, we're so underground. We're off Phoenix's subway station that no one knows exists.
That's funny.
There we go.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what we want to do with this, and we hope that instead of just talking about every type of film and everything like that, this sort of analysis of what makes something more unique. We're going to want to have people in the show, painters and stuff like that, to kind of talk about what do they strive for and what do they look for when they are creating. So that's just kind of our goal here.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and to kind of segue into our topic today, there's been sort of an oversaturation almost in every medium just because of how accessible things have become, and the lack of gatekeepers is good on one level. And on the other level, everything that you see kind of in the mainstream is all complete entertainment. And it seems like that's most of what's getting into theaters and most of what gets played on the radio because the old sort of systems and outlets are kind of breaking down. And so, I don't know, things that are coming out, it's just they're going for the simple buck, you know what I mean? Whether it be superhero movies or pop music or, you know what I mean? At least that's how it seems to me. I mean, how do you guys... maybe you guys want to touch on that before we...
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I feel like right now, I mean, it's a great...
I don't mean that in like an elitist way either. And I don't want to interrupt you, but it's just like... I don't know, like that's all that seems to be out there. But yeah,
it's a great thing that we have YouTube and Spotify and all these things that make it SoundCloud that make it easy to just release things and market yourself. And of course, there's gonna be a flip side of that too. You're gonna get a lot of not so great things, and that's just kind of how it is. But I feel like we should always maintain an appreciation for that quality stuff and not let that get saturated. I think I think it's totally fine to have reality shows, and I think it's totally fine to have 10,000 beauty vlogs, and because there's gonna be one for everybody. That's totally great. But I think there should still be a strive for creating something unique and special and appreciating that, like those, I guess in a way, fine arts.
It's like like the kind of thing like it's like your diet, like you don't want the main staple of your diet to be processed sugar and candy and stuff like that. Every now and then you need to work to derive some benefit from what it is that you're engaging in. You know what I mean? Whether it's analyzing like a really good film or I don't know, seeing a well-constructed piece of art or, listening to a piece of music that's really well-orchestrated.
I was thinking about this topic when you first brought it up to me, and a lot of the people who are making some of those big films would say, but we do put a lot of art and story into this, using the guidelines of let's just say, comic book world, and then they write their own stuff. And same thing, like when it comes to like pop music, and they work on a lot of very fine things to make it like art worthy, but still appealing to the masses and commercial. Because it's something to think about. If you make this art thing and spend so much money on it, and then release it and it doesn't do good, then how's your company gonna survive?
Well, it's truly a balancing act. I mean,
it's a balancing act for sure.
It's the producer versus the artist when it comes down to it every time. The producer needs to make sure people get in the door and want to see this movie. So,
oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
And that's like something that we also discussed is like, even we joked. We actually made a stab at doing a podcast like a year ago, and we actually did an episode about Lethal Weapon and Die Hard, and we joked about doing that again this time. But in a sense, it was kind of true because of the element of what we really like about those movies. Me and Salvatore are huge fans of those movies.
Yeah.
Precursor.
Yeah. And we introduced Mike to them cold.
Yes.
Yeah.
He preferred Die Hard, and Lethal Weapon was just so.
It's good.
Me and Brandon are really, really into Lethal Weapon, and Mike was just like okay with it, and we didn't know how to take that.
I still have your DVD, by the way.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But my point is, wait, which DVD?
Lethal Weapon.
Like Blu-ray or?
No, we bought a DVD. We bought
regular
the first one.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, don't worry.
I'll edit that part out.
Yeah.
Hold on. But I bring that point back is because I think those are both great examples of action movies that aren't just run-of-the-mill action movies. Like they keep with a lot of your same what's the word I'm looking for, like tropes and everything like that to an action film, but they're still handled and cared for in a way that I feel like makes them a little bit more unique.
Well, if I might add on to that, because actually Mike kind of got me thinking about this, and I'll use it to kind of segue into like our main idea, like our big topic today. The thing that what Mike was saying got me thinking about was that it seems like the problem with movies, like the producer sort of like auteur or like independent creator thing, is that they're overproduced these days. Mm-hmm. So too many people put too much work into them, and they're built on like an assembly line kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like you have just too many cooks. So whereas the really good movies, like if you think like, The Dark Knight, very good superhero movie, for example. That was like the result of like, I mean, there's a lot of work that went into that. There was a huge studio behind it, but it was like a sort of single creator who was able to sort of put his vision into motion, and he was in a very unique circumstance in which he was actually allowed to do that. Same thing with Joker, Todd Phillips. I don't mean to keep going for the Batman angle here, but there are plenty of bad Batman movies, and we can discuss that too. But Todd Phillips, like he was just allowed, like they slashed his budget down to like a super low amount, which was $55 million. Doesn't seem that low, but for a superhero movie, it's like like a third, if that, of like a regular budget. And they slashed his budget down that low, hoping that he would just sort of be discouraged by it. But he was like, no, I'll do it. You know what I mean? And then he was able to kind of write it the way he wanted and sort of do all these different things sort of like according to his vision. And it made like, one of the probably the most impactful superhero movie of the past, I don't know, maybe decade. You know what I mean? Because like it just had something new and fresh going for it. And so segueing from that, our topic today will be the case of Martin Scorsese versus Marvel Studios, and sort of just discussing the difference between what he terms as real cinema, the cinema of sort of like the fine art cinema, and then the cinema of what he called the theme park, which is sort of the overproduced kind of...
I like how he said theme park movies.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, he doesn't say the name,
yeah,
but he knows. You know who he's talking.
Yeah. And it's like the way he described it, and like I don't agree that they're not cinema, because that's like patently absurd to kind of like look at a movie and then to not think that it's somehow
just because it has affiliation.
However, I do know what he's saying. Like it's like not, because he said that like real cinema, the kind of cinema that he fell in love with, has like sort of a spiritual or psychological sort of revelation wrapped up in it, where this stuff is the same formula over and over again, to the point that it becomes meaningless. You know what I mean? You're just, it's like,
it's super safe. It's like, I mean, it really is like,
it's
you
content.
go onto a roller coaster, you know exactly what you're going to expect from a roller coaster. And so
exactly. It's just content at this point, designed to evoke certain reactions, and it does those very well. But the problem with Marvel is, it's not going to be absolutely horrible, but it won't break through like a certain glass ceiling that it sets for itself. You know what I mean? It's not going to like sort of surpass your expectations, really, because even when they step out and they're like, oh, this is like a really like with like Winter Soldier, like Captain America 2, it's like, oh man, this is like really groundbreaking for us. You know what I mean? Like that's always the caveat. It's like, this is like really groundbreaking and revolutionary, considering that we just do the same shit over and over again. You know what I mean? So, and it's like, it gets more, I don't know, there's like more significance than maybe it really deserves, because it's like, it's like, okay, well, I mean, it's still following the same formula that I've seen 1,000 times. You know what I mean? It's not actually kind of breaking through in any way that's like really, I don't know, like affecting people on a deeper level, I feel like.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to be discussing, essentially fine art cinema versus the theme park cinema. So we're going to talk about some superhero movies that we've seen that we thought worked, and then some that we thought didn't work so well, as far as achieving the goals.
Yeah, and why we liked them.
Yeah.
And what makes it unique? I mean, there's going to be plenty of people, and this is our opinions, obviously. I mean, there's plenty of people who think The Dark Knight is trash. I mean, I don't agree, but
yeah. I mean, I feel like that's wrong, but you can think that if you want. So but I think Dark Knight really set a high standard for moving forward of like all these superhero movies, and then I think that in a way Marvel was smart of not trying to do what DC did and continuously try to chase the Dark Knight back down, and did their own thing. And I think that was a great idea. They did a successful job of creating this colorful, very comic book feeling universe, and that's really cool too. Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of seeing some better, like, I want to see like more interesting, more unique stories within those books or movies.
And then not only that, I would like to see like, more interesting and more unique types of films be able to survive within this market. You know what I mean? Just it would be nice to see things that are not superhero movies get time of day at all. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be nice if they could like sort of open in theaters still.
So like, it's coming out now because of how much money and how much it's being produced, specifically with Marvel.
Well, that and they own. I mean, you could say that it's not even just. It's not even just superhero movies, but just Disney in general, because they own like 35% of the entertainment industry right now.
Yeah.
And so like every big event film that's coming out is theirs. Like they own Fox at this point, so it's like superhero movies. Star Wars is another big chunk of it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. It's
Pixar.
Sort of, Pixar. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But they have I want to talk about Pixar in a little bit.
Okay. But I mean, it's like they've sort of like dominated the entire market to the point where it's, I don't know, it seems like it's almost. I mean, I remember Jodie Foster. I remember reading about this years ago, and of course, everyone jumped to the defense of the giant superhero movies that are like crushing everything. But she said it's almost like fracking. You know what I mean? You're sort of you're doing that to the entertainment industry. You're essentially getting larger returns now, but ultimately diminishing the longevity and sustainability of the industry itself, which seems to be the case, because from everything that I've heard, it's like everything is narrowing in LA and getting more and more specific. It's like you got to be working for like these giant event films, or you're just not working at all, and they work with the same sort of small groups of people every time. And I just don't think it's good for things on a large scale, because you see, and I mean, it's like almost that. I mean, that's the earmark of inequalities. You see things are either on a really low budget or a really, really high budget, and you just see that disparity increasing, and it just seems like historically, if the social climate is like that, something is very fucking wrong. You know what I mean? And so when you see that happening with film, it's like that indicates to me that there's a problem of some sort. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough, and then obviously as a filmmaker. It's intimidating, but I feel like it also gives the opportunity to be that Joker movie, which is kind of cool.
That is cool.
I feel like since
I mean, let's pause. I mean, that movie was made for $55 million and has crossed the $1 billion mark, and it was rated R. That's pretty substantial, and I love that it was that character that did that. You know what I mean? That just like laughed in the face of like the entire trend. You know what I mean? And just completely. Just sort of shook up everyone. Like every like executive in Hollywood is like, "Oh, how the fuck did this happen? We didn't understand. This goes against our like I can just imagine them just like pulling their hair out like not.
I think it was marketed well too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely.
On top of it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You were.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that. But being able to do, I feel like the independent. There's like a smaller trend. I feel like of independent movies going up right now too. I think through the power of like A24.
A24 for sure. Yeah, they definitely filled that void left by Miramax. Miramax. That almost sounds like that sounded like I was being like hyper conservative there.
Miramax.
Miramax in Hollywood, setting the fucking social. Yeah. Anyway. If I were more like if this were a more influential podcast, I would definitely take that soundbite and then like use it in another video. It's like, look, it's a fucking far right nut job. But yeah. No, they very smartly, and I was hoping they would do this because I love A24. They definitely filled that void left by Miramax after the whole, Weinstein debacle, and like they are independent cinema right now. Yeah,
they're doing a great job of that, and I feel like
shout out to Criterion Channel.
I feel like it's all like going up with each movie release. Like I don't know, every time there's a new one.
Yeah,
I feel like the audience is growing too, which is exciting.
That's true. Yeah, there's definitely seems to be some steam behind independent cinema because anytime anything gets too extreme, there's always a reconciliation on the other end of the spectrum, and things kind of tend to reach an equilibrium again. And I think you can kind of see that happening, which is exciting. Because I grew up like the things that got me into like literature and then film too is like just and wanting to like make movies and then like write for Brandon. The things that inspired me to do that were like those mid-range to low budget, independent films and like the films of the new cinema of the 70s, like Scorsese and Sidney Lumet and Francis Ford Coppola, and like I don't know, just like deep, thoughtful films that don't give you the answer but give you a lot to think about and a lot to feel. And I love that. You know what I mean? Very well crafted psychological films. So.
Just adding I don't want to veer off topic of superhero movies, but
we got to talk about that.
A great example of that would be I think Breaking Bad. I've been rewatching Breaking Bad recently.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, I forgot how good I guess I got so overextended. I finished the whole series. I really enjoyed the whole series, but like by the end of it, it was just so intensely hyped. It was a very big topic thing. I was almost exhausted with it. And I haven't even wanted to rewatch it for a long time, but El Camino came out, so I was like, I'll rewatch it, or try to at least, and then I got immediately hooked again. But that was something that was really cool about that, was you can really see it, like, you can tell that they didn't have much money to go off of, but the fact that they didn't let that stop them. They, like, use lighting, and they use other things to kind of tackle what they were trying to create, even though they didn't really have the budget for it, at the beginning at least.
Particularly in the first season.
Yeah, the
first season, like, hardcore. It's like they were shot, it looked almost like those like independent like Half Nelson or like those like early to mid 2000s independent films where they're just like shooting with like just a regular digital camera or something. A lot of Breaking Bad in the early days looked like that because I feel like that must have been a really unproven type of show when it came out. Like AMC was like, we could try to kick some money towards this like this long character, you know what I mean? But it ended up changing TV.
It did, and that's what's phenomenal. I mean, it was like the earmark that definitely like from moving forward from Breaking Bad. Netflix shows and everything, like, it just changed. I think the HBO explosion kind of followed on that because HBO had
it was kind of a back and forth a little bit. Yeah, HBO had like Oz and The Sopranos and stuff in like the 90s, but then Breaking Bad, I feel like the way I would describe it is like HBO like hit the ball, like they served, and then like fucking AMC was just like
putting it on public TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Breaking Bad. I think I
didn't
see. I didn't even think of what you guys were talking about, the filming thing. Mm-hmm. It just the story grabbed me.
Oh
you know, it just I'm not a filmmaker. I'm just a regular movie consumer or show consumer.
Which is an important point because that's what affects you is the character.
The show grabbed me. The pacing of it was good. The story was good. The acting was really, really good. I forgot the main actor's name, but
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, we
got you.
Really good guy.
Yeah. He seems like he'd be good dude outside of that too.
He does, yeah. Despite playing a sociopath on TV. But yeah, no, that's an important point that you just brought up, Mike, because that's what appeals to somebody like in a film is the character, like the realness. You know what I mean? Like the psychological development, the struggle, the story. You know, it's got to be credible, and I feel like you lose that when you just sort of have like a swirling nebulous pattern of CGI like on a screen that just kind of loses you. You know what I mean? I've gotten bored a couple times. That's probably like a good place for like an OK Boomer meme.
Low over there.
Take away this.
But you're peeking. All right.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
So.
All right, we're back after a brief recess due to some shit happening in the other room.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, technical difficulties. We should probably discuss Marvel because we've just sort of been kind of on our own.
We started talking about
here.
Breaking Bad. What's wrong with
We started talking about Breaking Bad.
I love that
pretty
show.
fucking cool. We could do a
I
whole
actually
nother-
wanted to bring up Childish Gambino, but I was like, okay, Randy, you really.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I can feel that happening because we're like Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Breaking Bad, you know what I mean, and all this stuff. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about like actual Marvel now. Movies that we think were good in the Marvel universe. I think it would be good to start off with. We've mentioned a few, but Iron Man was really the launching point for this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Iron Man.
Great flick.
Solid.
Yeah, took off into the stratosphere with an iron suit, literally and figuratively. Good movie, you know. Very competent.
Tony Stark. What's this actor's name?
I
don't know why.
Jr.?
I know his name. I just doing this just brings blanks, but he really brought the character in. He
did.
Really brought it.
Yeah,
He's a good actor all around. I love all of the movies he's in, and
it was refreshing because it was like the first time it wasn't like because it was Spider-Man, Batman, Spider-Man, Batman, Spider-Man, Batman.
Yeah,
and
basically.
finally like
X-Men sort of came in.
X-Men too.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Spider-Man was like the only thing that was like more lighthearted, so Iron Man kind of broke that with being lighthearted but good action.
Yeah, it was, and then the other thing too is it was like a really interesting. I mean, I guess they delved into this as much as they could, but you know, when they got into like this sort of the complications of like a superhero being like an arms dealer and like the moral crisis that he was facing, realizing that the weapons were being used by terrorists and by the, you know what I mean? And it was like a really interesting movie. Like again, the thing about it was it definitely watching it, like it didn't have many surprises as far as the way the story was structured, but it was well structured. It followed the same basic arc as like, you know, Batman or Spider-Man character, you know, begin the movie, character has no powers, has an origin story that takes place within the movie, origin story wraps into greater, you know, plot arc with villain, you know, being at the center of his, you know, that's the thing you notice is like every superhero movie, like, you know, that has come out before like the big Marvel wave and then even some after that, like you have the initial movie and it's basically an origin story wrapped up in sort of the character being in action a little bit to give you that satisfaction. Yeah. So the Green Goblin is tied up a little bit in Spider-Man's origin story. The Joker is tied up in Batman's origin story in 1989 Batman, like in a way that's like, okay, that's reaching a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you saw a lot of that, like where you would have the first villain and the first out is like 100%.
Yeah.
That origin, but it follows that arc, you know.
Yeah, compressing the comic book story into one film.
Yeah. People expect like a certain number of acts, like with like the face, to get the payoff. But it did what it did well. Like I'm not being critical. Like it was a really good first step, I thought. So, what are some things that what
do you like about Iron Man?
Yeah,
for me it was mainly the first one. It just kind of like wasn't really into like superhero movies. You know, I mean, so many were just like I thought it was made for kids. You know, it was just not. And then The Dark Knight was awesome. Moving forward,
of course, yeah. That was a little bit after Iron Man. I mean, it was like the same year. Like Iron Man was the highest grossing movie of that year, and then like Batman came out like I think a couple months later. It just
was it really
shattered every. It just like
blew
it out
timeline.
of the water. Yeah, no,
it's because
like,
I didn't
like
watch it in the
later.
theaters.
Yeah.
None of these movies I've seen in the theaters. I've seen it later, except for The Dark Knight. But Iron Man
saw that in theaters because it was so fucking baller.
Iron Man was Iron Man 1 and 2 I really like. Number 3 was like a little overproduced and a little it had a little cockiness. It was just kind of weird.
Also, important thing to note, Iron Man 1, that was, I think in a lot of ways, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that was Jon Favreau's baby in a lot of ways. Like, he was the director, and Marvel had just become a studio at that point. I don't even think they were owned by Disney yet. They had just become a movie production studio, and they're like, all right, so we're gonna take control of our characters and we're gonna make their stories right. Like, because like up to that point, like there was a lot of screwy shit that some people forget from like the early 2000s with like, you know, Fantastic Four, for example, or like where you would sort of get the thing that you wanted in the movie, but not really. You know what I mean? Like they would always there would be some fuckery where like the producers would get into it. Like a really good example is the Wolverine Origins, like the Deadpool that was in that movie was like this like weird fucking.
Oh man.
Yeah, like there's enough been said about that, but you get a lot of fuckery. But then Marvel was like, we're gonna take control of this, and we're gonna give people what they actually want, which they started to do at that point. But I think. They were producing it, but like still Favreau, he was the director and he had a lot of control over it. So there weren't too many cooks in the kitchen either. So it was pure to the material. Yeah. It gave people what they wanted, which is good. But you had like sort of one director and it was a very sort of like they didn't have like the assembly line figured out yet. So there was like more room for I don't know, him to kind of breathe, I feel like.
I like that they gave Tony Stark's character to like kind of go over the tech behind it.
Oh yeah,
because I feel like a lot of movies just kind of like, yeah, it's a superpower. Move on. They don't really explain the background, and I like to understand the background, and I like just seeing all that, how he just like I'm putting this on, as he's talking. It felt more like real, like he knows what he's doing with his armor. It's not just like I'm just gonna put on this suit, you know what I mean? And that really brought me into the world, and I like that.
Yeah, Marvel's always got a good knack of like tying in their superpowers and how it works and building a whole thing around it.
Yeah.
So, then what else is there? What other movies
are there?
I
heard Robert Downey Jr. had a big role of like saying, I wanted to like do this and do that to my armor. I was watching an interview about it. Shortly after the movie, he was talking about like, I want to like, be able to put my arm and click and and like they made it work for him. Marvel made it work for him.
That was like when he was making those decisions. It was early on in the game, so Marvel hadn't completely dominated the creative forces. Like they got rid of like with Ant-Man a couple years later after they were off and running. Like Edgar Wright had been working on that movie for years, and then they pushed him out because he didn't get the creative control that he wanted. Because Marvel was like, "Nah, we're gonna do shit our way now. Like we think we kind of know what you know."
Heavy-handed.
And so but like back when like Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau were like doing Iron Man 1, like they still had some say in things. You know what I mean? And then like when it gets to Iron Man 2, you could feel Favreau kind of getting a little bit. I don't know, because he ended up quitting after that, and you feel like it might have had something to do with the pressure they were putting on him, because Iron Man 2 was just like this sort of. It was a little bit messy because you had all this like sort of like Avengers plugs tied into it. They're like Black Widow's going to show up, and Nick Fury's going to be there talking to him about the Avengers. Well, this other thing goes on that's Iron Man's thing, but still we need to build this up. You know what I mean? Because that was kind of where the launch. That was the moment where they're like, all right, so now we can kind of get the ball rolling on this.
Which I think on Marvel's, and that's pretty cool marketing. Like people like to talk about like
everything feeds into it.
But it's wait to the last scene to get a special thing.
If you compare Iron Man 1 against Iron Man 2 and what worked in Iron Man 1 that didn't work in Iron Man 2, that's like a really good example, because that's like where Marvel saw like Iron Man 1, they just wanted a self-contained movie. Like they were like, we want to make this one thing as good as we can, and if it builds into something else, it does. If it doesn't, you know what I mean? But Iron Man 2, they knew full well, it's like, all right, so this is going to become the Avengers now, because Iron Man 1 was so fucking successful. So the second one was sort of like an extended advertisement, you know what I mean, for like kind of what the universe they were trying to build rather than being its own independent story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I think that's kind of a big difference between those two movies in particular. With Iron Man 1, it was, I don't know, they put everything into that movie with the possibility of sequels, but it wasn't like built on that, And
recently, I think I really loved Black Panther.
Black Panther was good.
Yeah.
I especially like the beginning of it. The way it's shot, the way they bring you into the world. I think like some of the action scenes could have been a little less rushed, in my opinion.
That was kind of, I had that same feeling when I saw it. Like the first time I saw it, like I was a little bit lukewarm on parts of it, and it was because the action scenes were like really standard. Like there was all this like great production design and costume design.
Yeah, the soundtrack was great.
The soundtrack was fucking excellent. That was
like one of the big step ups for Marvel in the wild.
Yeah, I know. Well, because it's always like Alan Silvestri just like da 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 da. You know what I mean? It's kind of like epic, But Black Panther.
I forgot who did the soundtrack, but
it was Kendrick Lamar. Yeah, he produced it and then had a bunch of artists on it.
I know he was on it, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't the main producer, like the engineer.
I think it was Kendrick.
Well, main engineer. I don't know.
Yeah, Kendrick Lamar produced it. Yeah, he had like
it was sick.
Vince Staples
and I like kind of the African voices and roots he put into the music, and you can still hear it in his music. Like he made a couple songs that he has in his own Black Panther album that is one of his top 3 or top 5 songs to listen to. Like, and go on iTunes or whatever.
Yeah,
I would definitely say that
Spotify.
Movie has that spirit that we were kind of talking about.
Well, and also
earlier.
it was like I shockingly like was allowed to kind of get into like social, issue, like a real
Oh,
way.
yeah.
I was able to actually like deal with things like the characters had some substance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
for
funny
the
how
first time. You know, if,
I
like,
did not expect that.
Yeah.
I thought, I was like Black Panther, character, but Black Panther, like the social aspect, the real Black Panthers of America kind of was kind of like integrated, because that's what they called themselves, the Black Panthers.
The other thing too is like another really important point about that movie is that Marvel like classically has a problem of like their villains being just super weak. Like just they're tools basically, like they're in service to the plot and to like the what the main character is going through. Like the villains never are fully fleshed out, or they just feel like another sort of plot tool. But in Black Panther, like Killmonger was like 100% like his own. You know what I mean? Like he was very well developed, very well acted, like very fleshed out, because he was sort of the heart of what the movie was trying to say ultimately. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's another thing like on that movie. Kind of ended here, but I like. You don't really hate the villain as much. You understand the pain.
Very sympathetic.
You understand it. Like you can't hate him. You just like, yeah, that's what it is. That's what happens.
It was a well balanced flick.
Not only that, T'Challa's sort of struggle made sense too, because like he had like a genuine problem. You know what I mean? Like, do I open up the borders to the rest of the world and get them involved and potentially pollute this culture, or do we just stay closed off with all of our resources that could potentially help people and just like not deal with all the problems? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that's pretty riveting too.
Really good idea. And I think it could have just been, I don't know if it's direction, but I could have been organized a little bit better for a flick, but it's still a really good flick.
I feel like, didn't we get the same car flip in that movie? Like we see Black Panther do the car flip in the Captain America movie, and then he does like the same exact thing.
Right? Yeah. No. Well, I mean that's the problem. Yeah, the biggest problem in that movie is like and the big problem with Marvel and like sort of the CGI action scenes and all that just feels very recycled at this point. It's like, oh, we need an action scene here, so hey, CGI department, get on that. We'll just stuff it into the the narrative basically. So I don't know.
Yeah, and then I personally like one like little more like side note is I really like Guardians of the Galaxy. I feel like that was the first one. It was just a good, fun, different way of handling the superhero movie and being more relaxed, and it was just cool. It was a fun watch.
Aaron Gunn had freedom on that one. I think honestly the similarity between all three of these movies is that you had one person, Jon Favreau, Ryan Coogler, and Aaron Gunn, just sort of being able to kind of, to some degree, because obviously it's a part of Marvel, but I mean even Guardians of the Galaxy was sort of a little bit outside of that Avengers thing. Like it involved the Infinity Stones and Thanos and all that. But it was kind of like they weren't Avengers. They were kind of like their own thing to some degree.
And they're so unknown that you can do anything you want with them, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. No one's expectations will be harmed or shattered. You know what I mean? So it's like,
I think that's the biggest thing about these big movies is like what Martin's problem is when the company puts too much hand and doesn't let the directors and script writers and actors kind of form it and kind of put too much of a concept into something and not let the directors as artists do what they have to do.
When it's assembly lined and it's not as focused anymore, it loses its soul. You know what I mean? Like it loses its voice. Like its artistic merit is diminished by the fact that there's so many people, and as hard as they may work, putting together those big scenes and shit, like it doesn't matter because it's not saying anything. You know what I mean? It's just it's a product. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And film's a weird business because it has to make money, but it's like,
and that's the biggest thing. Like when you're investing million to million. I mean, we're almost like
that's not. I'm not unsympathetic to that. You know what I mean?
When you're creating the blockbuster.
So
but I mean that's the thing. Like when you're creating these blockbusters, when you're creating these single hit songs. A teen novel where you're just trying to make some money off of it, basically. You can still do them well. You can still do it with the way you're treating it like art. You're still creating, like giving it
like Die Hard,
and Lethal Weapon, and the movies that we mentioned already.
And it's not going to be. I think like it works as a genre. I think that's what I see these movies and what Martin's talking about, and versus. It's like a genre now. You got these genre superhero movies. You got this genre hipster style movies, if you want to consider it that way, that people lean towards, and it kind of goes in your taste. And he's complaining about something because the fact that his style of movies aren't as big as these major movie franchises, and I think it's just he should be glad. Realistically, like he came out with the Irishman. I still haven't seen it.
Yeah,
have you seen it?
It's not out on Netflix yet. It's playing at some local theaters.
Okay,
but yeah, it's not out yet. It's released on Netflix on the 27th. I want to say.
And he got backed by Netflix, and that's the great opportunity that we're going on.
He got a ton of money to make that too. He got a lot of money from Netflix for that one.
And Netflix is changing up the game. You know, it's making Hollywood, you know, scared, I guess you can say. That's why I think I mean, if you think about Hollywood, is only bringing out movies that have already been. They're just remaking movies.
Yeah.
There's
well, everything's related to an IP. It's like
they're marketing
a superhero brand, a remake, a sequel.
The
Beatles, Freddie Mercury,
these
Queen.
guarantees.
All of it relates to nostalgia. They're just marketing to nostalgia, and nostalgia marketing really works.
Yes.
Especially with millennials like us, and.
Because ironically enough, as we're saying, even Martin Scorsese himself is talking about these movies that are older, which is still nostalgia. So kind of feeding into this whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I was getting ready to mention this whole. I was about to be like, give Spielberg a pat on the back too, because he really is like a blockbuster, like the king of blockbusters.
He essentially started it.
Yeah.
George Lucas began this trend.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
And but they had the heart and they had that soul, and you loved
the movies
them.
were good. Yeah. Like you felt like each one had a certain amount of care and love put into it. It wasn't looking, because that's the problem. That's a big problem with the big Marvel movies, is that they dominate the entire market, make it hard for other things to thrive, and then they're all about the brand that they create. You know what I mean? It's less about the individual product and the effect it has on you, which I think is what Scorsese's problem is. And it's more about, okay, how does this connect to another sequel that'll bring us more money? We need sure investments in the future because we don't have time to, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so, I don't know, like, everything has to, like Joker. It made a ton of money, and Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, like, yeah, we just want to do a one shot, one and done, be done with it. And the studios are like, no. Like, you know what I mean? It's across the $1 billion line. We need more until it's, you run the fucking river dry, basically.
Yeah.
So. And that's the downside when you have sequels to franchise, it's hard to keep up with it. And like another genre film that does pretty well that he didn't mention, that is part of Disney now, is animated films, cartoon films, cartoon or animations. They have a really good story and they cross over really, really well. And
between adults and children, you mean?
Huh?
Like crossover between adults and children, or
both?
Okay.
I think they're universal.
Yeah.
They can go with adults and children, and keep it at like PG-13 or whatever. But they can go like pretty deep in the plots and stuff. So that goes another genre style film that you can kind of go about. Because if whatever Martin was talking about in the fact that his I forgot what he calls it, his films, they're not films. What he was saying. He's talking about more live action, obviously. Is if there was too much of that, then he would change it up. Mm-hmm. But like he seems like he's being a little more conservative about his film. Obviously, film and movies and whatever, it's art, and art evolves.
Yes.
And in the biggest art that we can see evolve a lot compared to film is in music. It evolves extremely fast.
Yeah.
And a lot of styles that are coming back, it's like 80s and 70s, and like you got the 90s kind of style, but you also want something fresh and new. So you kind of have a little taste of some of that sound, and whether using the certain kind of synths and stuff, and then like you just use modern production. And production couldn't be any better than in history of any time. No matter anyone who says about analog versus digital, today's production is, and I think, I'm not sure about film, but it's like the best you can get. That's why people are like remastering the Beatles albums, and I think one just came out, and they just like bring it up to quality of master techniques and stuff like that, and it sounds amazing. It sounds like something that came out 2019,
Yeah,
2020.
that's awesome.
It's true. That's a good point.
Well, I think
I think it's a
we
good time
should,
to wrap it up. Yeah, it's a good time to put a pin.
Yeah.
That.
And I was thinking about what I'll say is, I think this is good. Hopefully you guys liked it. Follow us. You can. We'll have links in the description where you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook and all that, and then subscribe.
Yeah.
On Instagram, feel free to share your thoughts too. We'll have a post about this podcast, and if you disagree or agree, I want to hear from you guys too.
Yeah.
So
Join the conversation. Keep it civil. Keep it not civil. It's the internet.
Yeah.
So do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And we'll be here to take your abuse or your dialogue, whatever you want to do.
So,
We're putting it on YouTube, right?
yes.
So just even any
YouTube
comments.
Yeah, YouTube.
And
I thought you said that. Yeah. I didn't
I said Instagram. I was thinking about the audio.
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, Spotify.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be around, and we'll come out with another thrilling episode with a new topic.
Yeah. Lethal Weapon, Die Hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if we're
Coming
gonna
up.
do another one exactly like this because I don't want to do all industry talk. Because basically what we
yeah.
discussed today was the business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what's big. I want to in the future just kind of go into what we're passionate about and what what I mean. Less of a I don't know, less of a conversation of elitism versus populism and the big, fucking sticking points. But we're gonna, I don't know, try to get into things that really trying to drive us to and kind of talk about
stuff that we love.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. All right, cool. So thank you for tuning in.
Yep.
Thank you.
That is that.